Hi everyone. So this module is going to introduce you to the present continuous. We're going to look at the grammar of how to create the present continuous, and we're going to look at the 3 different reasons why you should be using the present continuous, along with additional vocabulary such as time markers that are important when you're using this tense. Let's start off with the basics just to make sure that we're all understanding what the present continuous is and how we create it. So, the present continuous, the form is subject plus the auxiliary verb be plus your main verb, and it's ing form. Here's a very, very simple example. John is watching TV. Okay? Very, very simple, but I just wanted to make sure that we all understand what the present continuous is and how we use or how we create the correct form. John is watching TV. Subject plus the verb be plus your main verb in its ing form. Now, let's move on to the first of the 3 reasons why we use the present continuous. So we have the first use of the present continuous, and our first use is the simplest and the easiest to remember. It's basically used to describe the thing you're doing now. What are you doing now? I am teaching English. I am presenting English. You guys out there, you are studying English. You are learning English. In our example, John is watching TV. He's doing it now, yeah? So the form is the same. John is watching TV. But to actually use this tense more precisely, we need to add more vocabulary, perhaps some kind of marker in time. So some of the most common time markers that would be used to describe what you're doing now might be at the moment. John is watching TV at the moment. An easy one to remember is simply now. John is watching TV now. Another one you might use today, or you might use, say, this morning or this afternoon. John is watching TV today. Okay, so we are using this tense to describe the action that you are doing now. Now we have the second reason why we use the present continuous tense. And you can see in this example that we're not describing an action that is happening right now at this moment in time. We're actually using the present continuous to describe an action that's happening around the present time. So it might have started a few days ago or a few weeks ago, and it might continue for a few more days or a few more weeks. Here's the example that I have for you. John is watching the final season of Game of Thrones on TV. So John is watching the final season of Game of Thrones. Now he might be attempting to watch the final season in one day, but the chances are you'll be watching the final season of a TV show over a number of days or weeks. Hence, we have some additional time markers which are important when you're using the present continuous to talk about things happening around now rather than literally what you're doing at this moment. So phrases that include, say, this week or this month. So John is watching the final season of Game of Thrones on TV this week. Okay, let's take a look at the third reason for using the present continuous. Right, so let's take a look at the third and final reason why we use the present continuous tense in the English language. And you can see that this example I have for you here is very, very different from the previous 2 examples, because here we're describing the future. We're using the present continuous to actually describe something that's not going to happen until some point in the future. And we call these events in the future scheduled events. scheduled events. So these are events that will be, penciled into your diary. They will be within your schedule for things that you are going to do in the future. And we describe them using the present continuous. So let's take a look at the example. John is watching the final episode of Game of Thrones on Friday night at 8 p.m. On Friday night at 8 p.m. So on Friday in the future. It's not happening now, it's not happening round about now, it's happening at a time and date in the future. So we have some different time markers for you here. So we have on Friday or on Monday. We might say next week or next month. We might say in March or in November. Yeah. So the time markers that you use and the time markers that you choose are very important, and the type of time marker that you use is very important for being very, very specific about how you're using the present continuous tense and what you're describing. Right, so this has been your introduction to the present continuous. Now it's time to actually do some practice.